What's up YouTube? My name's Quickie, welcome back to the channel. Yeah, a little bit of a sprint up, hey? Right, what am I doing? Cool. Right, today there's some stuff I need to figure out on the frame. And I want to cut some of it up. Because there's a number of bits and pieces that I need to check out. Oh, come on, have I got an empty page? You'll do. Right. Okay, so frame dig is all done. I've spent ages checking and just measuring and, you know, just making sure in my own head that everything's all good, which it is. Couple of things that could be interesting when I try and get the frame out is these side engine mounts. Let me show you. So these little side engine mounts here, obviously they come up to this plate that overhangs the tube, which is going to make it awkward lifting the frame off. That's an oversight on my part. So what's probably going to end up happening is I'll unbolt the main stay when I come to doing it, because the inside plate easily clears, but I need to separate that from the main chassis rails in order to get that centre bit out. That's an oversight on my part. I should have made these removable at this end, which would have been easy enough to do, but I welded it all now, so that's that. What a goon. Never mind. I'll figure it out. It just means that this bit is going to have to come out. That'll be fine. That'll be fine. Right, so right, so what I need to do today is to come up with a plan. We might as well start with what I don't like about the frame and why I'm changing it in the first place, because there's nothing wrong with the frame apart from it's just fugly. Hello, I'm beeping. Can you get some milk on the way home, please? Right, so stuff I don't like is obviously the breakaway. I've been banging on about that for ages because they're just horrible. It's just nasty looking. I also don't like the way that the side stand is chomped out into the thing. That looks horrible. That's not very nice. I don't like this bit here where it's all boxy. I get why, because you know this bit has got to be particularly strong. You've got a top shock mount up here. You've also got an engine mount. You've also got the swing arm pivot position, and that is essentially the point that all the power of the bike is being forced into. So it's got to be tough and strong. It's just that it's boxy and all this is like nice and round, and I want it all nice and round and stuff. So we're going to need to change it just because I don't like it and it's my bike. Thing is though, at the end of all this, this is all going to have to be tested. It's going to have to be lent on, and it'll be me that does it. Please don't think this video is oh, this is how you design a motorcycle frame and this is how you build one and this is what's okay and this is what in and all that sort of stuff. No, not at all. I'm a home gamer when it comes. I am a welder fabricator, so you know I can quite happily do all that sort of stuff, but I've never done a frame before. This is my first one, so I am going to make mistakes. Hopefully I'll catch them in time before the whole thing's done and then I'll go and crash it. But, you know, I am going to try something and go, oh, I don't really like the look of that, and I'll change it again and blah. But I ain't going to be happy with it until I'm happy with it, if that makes sense. Once it is all finished, as far as testing it goes, it's going to go around a track. I don't care, the whole bike is built, looks lovely, and it's all shiny and everything else. It's getting lent on and it's going around a track. I don't know which one, and it will be outgunned by absolutely everything there, because it is really old. 97 this is. It is just going to get outgunned by everything, so that'll be us in the slow group or medium group or something. But I want to lean on it in a corner and under brakes and under full power and give it the beans and this, that and the other, and just, you know, see how we did basically. If I crash it, I'll crash it. I just hope I don't. So first up, I'm going to do a couple of quick little drawings. I want to capture where everything is and blah, take a whole load of measurements. And I also need to work out an order of operations here as well. Which bits do I cut off first? And then how do I replace them without upsetting anything, and then cut off something else and do the same again? Oh, why do I start these things? Right. Right, the other thing I'm doing is just taking pictures of absolutely everything. It's just like a really good reference. So, you know, I mean, like the worst thing to do would be to get halfway through it and go, oh, how did that go? I've chopped it off now. There you go. But like where you get all these little fillets and, you know, gussets and all that sort of stuff, I want to try and replicate an awful lot of this if I possibly can do. It's not going to be a case of, oh, it's just a Bandit frame without the breakaway. It is going to look different, especially the back end of it. But, you know, it's got to be sound, and I want it to be recognisable as Bandit. You know, just a nice looking one, basically. More gussets up there. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Ooh. Some of this is just horrible. I mean, like properly horrible. What's going on there? There's a bead of weld that runs from this front bit and it kind of snakes around and then comes down to this little bracket which holds the oil cooler. I don't get that at all. There are some nice bits that I do like. I've been staring at this for about, well, I don't know. Well, I've been staring at it for days, but I've spent ages a day just like having a close look to try and figure out the bits that I like and the bits that I don't like. I don't like any of the welding, that's for damn sure. Nothing's dressed up, it's blobby as hell. There's beads of weld where, you know, why would you do it like that? I don't get it. Like these side bits, for example, on the corner, on the inside, it's obviously in two bits. They just stuck them together and welded them. But the welds are really, really proud. So you've got to start thinking, well, how much penetration have you got to that? Because that's like a main structural bit. And then you start looking at stuff like this. I do like these little taco gussets. I like the idea of that. So where you've got one tube joins another, basically you bend up a U-shaped piece of metal and you kind of curve it between the two. So it's spread, you know, the load is sort of spread out across a much bigger area rather than just where you've welded this tube to that tube. So you can see one up there. But again, it is just, you know, it's tacked on one side and then it's seam welded on the other side. It's got drain holes top and bottom. Top one ain't going to drain much, but the bottom one will. Top one just lets all the water in. And then you've got another one on the outside here. So that's just tacked there, there and there. But you can see on this one, it's welded on the outside. Well, here, there's a bloody great gap. You know, a weld is not like a glue gun. You're supposed to melt it all the way through and get penetration, and they just ain't. They haven't at all. The welds are really skinny as well. They're not, and they all stand proud. So you've got to think, well, how much penetration actually is there? I'm not convinced there's a great deal. And it's just blob, like they start and stop halfway through a run and they don't join one into the other. These gaps where they've welded this top piece to this tube and then where they've gone round it, there's a gap in the corner. There's holes all over the place. And this is a production frame. This hasn't been monkeyed with. This hasn't been chopped about. Not yet. That's coming. But yeah. And then there's silly little things like, you know, where the cutout is for the side stand. I know the side stand, you need to have flat bits to run onto it, but they skin it. That's going to be a solid bit, but they skin it up a hell of a lot. And it's right on the joint of a weld. And then it goes into this back piece here with a boxy bit. So it's essentially two pieces clamped together and welded through. But it's minimal welding where the solid bit joins this boxy bit. And because it's a solid piece of metal, you know, once you start welding, there's an awful lot of metal there to sap the heat away from it. So how much penetration are you really going to get there? You know what I mean? If it was like, you know, if you were to join two bits of tube together, ideally it would be a narrower piece of tube that goes up inside one and inside the other, leaves a little bit of a gap, so you can weld all around that seam, and you can also cross drill it and do plug welds. But because it's like it's not a solid piece, it's got a void in the middle of it, you know, the heat actually works its way through and melts the inside tube, and that way you get good penetration. But it don't look like that's what's been going on here. It really doesn't. That is just gross. So, you know, chopping it up is probably a good idea. Oh, I'm sure I could do better than this. I'm sure I could. Right, so what's the plan then? Right, so these are my thoughts. This is what I want to do. And I think how I'm actually going to do it. All this lot is going to go. That's going to get chopped off here and here. That's going to be my starter for 10. So I'm literally just focusing on the engine cradle side of stuff. Okay? We'll come to all this bit in a minute. But basically I'm going to do it in stages. So I've seen loads of other videos and stuff where they go, right, we're going to start on the swing arm position first, or the whatever else it is, and then they're going to do both sides, you know, at the same sort of time, so they get them all straight and, you know, all that sort of stuff. I ain't going to do it that way because of the way that this thing is put together. So I'm confident it ain't going to go anywhere in the frame jig. This is all proper sturdy stuff. It ain't going anywhere. You know, wobble this bit and the whole of the jig is moving. But, you know, everything sort of stays where it is. I have been pushing and even on this, having measured it and then measured it again, and everything is where I left it. So I'm confident that this is quite stiff and sturdy. So we're going to start on the breakaway side, just because I ain't got to cut that out. I just got to unbolt it and all this lot will come off, but the rest of the frame should stay where it is. To get rid of this, what I want to do is to replace this side of it to a certain point, probably about here, but I want to replace all this lot and then move on to the other side and mirror exactly the same thing and then join it all up at the back. So to replace this, I'm looking at this area up here. This, literally, as soon as this bend stops, then we're into a solid bit of insert which has got the breakaway mounts on it. So that is like right on like the, you know, where the curve stops. That's like a tangent to it. So how much of that is up in there, I don't really know, which is probably why it's all boxed up and everything else on the inside. So to replace this, essentially I need to come right up to the steering stem. To replace right up to there, this tube needs to go, that tube needs to go, and the one in the middle needs to be lopped off as well. The one in the middle obviously just unbolts. So that frees all that up, and this is just bolted down here. So that whole side could come off if I chomp through 1, 2, 3, 4 tubes. And I'm going to be chomping them that way a little bit, so I'm past my centre line and I'm not going to be interfering with anything. The idea would then be to make that up as well, and it has got a kink in it that way as well, because it would, presumably because there's 2 exhausts that go in there and then one on the outside. So that's why that's a straight run, and then it kicks out at the bottom. So that should be easy enough. Then I'm going to bring it back to the same point on here. So we're going to have some sort of guide so I know, okay, up that high and out this far, that I can drill and tap into this just as a reference. That'd be fine. And then what I'll do is I'll chomp out the rest of it. Sorry, I'm going to put in the engine mounts here onto that side tube and get all them married up, so I can bolt it back here as well, and it will be fixed at the top. And I will probably do this engine mount as well, so all that side is then held in place. Then I'll move on to the other side, and once the other side's done, then I'll put all this beamwork in the top again, just to brace it all up and see what's what. The front will obviously have to plate up, but that can all happen at a later point. I think. So I think that's how I'm going to start on it. And then we get to the back bit, which is going to be interesting. There is quite a lot going on down here. We start looking at it going, okay, how am I going to replace it? Well, there's a few obvious troubles that comes up. If from there down all the way up to there was done in one piece, right, which is quite a lot to ask, but if that was all one piece, then you could put a slug in the end, put some plug welds in it, that goes into this tube with a couple of plug welds, all that comes up and you can cope it there, so that kind of goes up to the steering stem and it's all in place then. However, if you're going to do this in more than one piece, then it's like, how are you going to get all those slugs in? I think the only way to do it, I think I'm going to have to do it in more than one piece anyway. Here I'm going to be making up a couple of bosses to go on for the swing arm jobby. We're going to come out to the same width, just because I can pick that up as a reference and I've got that dimension there and blah blah blah, so they can go onto here. This bit of the frame is straight, so that could be cut across there with a slug shoved up it, ready to pick up another piece of tube that comes down here, which it probably will do. It just, you know, but obviously this is going to need to be coped into it. I don't know, it's hard, isn't it? It is hard. Getting everything cut right so it's all lined up so it just plonks on and you can tack it down and weld it is going to be a bit of an art. And I need to research out how I'm going to do this a little bit more, I think. I need to think it through. I mean, this is probably why all this lot is done in two pieces, because all that's one lot, then there'll be a slug that comes down there. That's obviously just another slug with a bar on it, so they can put the two bits together around this boss and just seam weld the whole lot. So I can, you know, from a production point of stuff, I can see the benefits of doing it this way. It looks horrible, but I can see why they would do it that way, because when you're looking at replacing from there all the way around to there, that's quite a thing. That is quite a thing. Well, maybe I do try doing it all in one. I might give it a go and see how close I can get. But then this tube is a different diameter to that tube. So ideally, that... Oh, bloody hell. I hadn't thought of that, had I? Right. Okay, how big are those tubes? Right, 0. Is that even... 34.3. Is that like... .35 inches. .34.3. and this is 0U. How big's that? 34.3 mil. Really? Okay. That seems like a straight bit. 38.6. So allowing a tiny bit for paint and everything else. 34 and 38. Is that like an imperial size or something? So that's 1.5 inches. 1.34 inches. Really? 1.34. What size did I say it was? Right. So the top tube is obviously thicker, but I'm going to need to, I want to try and match the bottom tube as close as I possibly can do. I know there is going to be a difference, so I know that there's going to be a step to it, which I can sort out. That's not it's not much, but I'm going to need to have something in there on the bosses and stuff anyway. So I'm just looking to see what tube I can get. Right, 1 3/8 inches, so that's fine. So that's like 34.9 something or other. We'll call it 35. So do they do a die? This is a die that I need for the tube bender. There is a follower that goes with it as well, and I tend to get these either from Tubella or Stakesy's. I'm just trying to find one. Model 3, JD squared, Model 3, tooling, that one. Tooling guide size, please select. So they do 1 3/8 inches one, 35 mil. I have no idea what that radius is. We're going to have to figure that out in a minute. But if we go for one of them, one of those dies to do the job right is 360 quid. 360 quid. I did make one actually for some of the products and that. Oh, there we go. I did make one. But to get the slug of steel, and then I had to turn it down on a mate's lathe and grind all the tools and everything else. There ain't a great deal of difference, believe it or not. I think that one, there was still like, what? I don't know, best part of 300 quid in it. But then again, I did have to pay for stuff that I wouldn't have to pay for now. But I think I'm just going to have to buy one. This is kind of where the patrons and the viewership, you know, because we do get paid for people watching it. I mean, it's bugger all, it really is beer money. But where the patrons are chipping in and everything else, that money that I get from that, every single penny goes back into the channel, and it doesn't go into my pocket. It basically gets me tooling like this so that I can make stuff like that. Because that way, if I want to make another one, I've got all the stuff to do it. So I think I'm going to dip into the Patreon funds and get myself another former and guide set for the tube bender. I just need to figure out what that radius is. Right, that's the next job. Right, so ease off. Ease off. There out. Well, nothing moved. Right. We need to know what that radius is. That one there. Easy way of doing it. Right, that's the centre line that I'm trying to figure out the radius of. This ain't going to be the most accurate way, but it should be good enough for what we're doing. So just a piece of paper on there and just an old piece of alley. Do a bit of brass. Oh, come on. Why did I pick one with burrs on? Right, I think you're that bit there. I've put a hole in my piece of paper. Right, let's see if we can work it out from that. I learnt this years ago in school. Who thought I'd ever be using it, eh? Right, so all I want to do is to try and figure out what the centre line radius is of that bend, which is basically that line there, like that. Right, so all I've done is drawn two random lines. I'm sure everybody knows this. It's not that accurate, it is quick and dirty, but it will get you in the ballpark. So we'll go more than halfway on that line, arc like that. Arc like that. Same thing on this one. Right. Go between those two. And those two, and basically where they join should be the centre of that radius, which according to this is going to be about 5 inches. About 5 inches? Alright, well let's do an arc. Oh, hang on. I don't care if it's exact or not, I just want to like that. Right. So, is it close? That's not far off, is it? Rough centre line. I'd say that's a 5-inch centre line radius. To me, that looks spot on. Right, okay, so. Right, so I've measured it a couple of times, because I've had a look on the Tubella site and the Stakes' site, and for 1 3/8 or 35mm, basically, they do a 4.5-inch centre line radius, or they do a 5.5-inch centre line radius. So they don't do a 5, so I was a little bit off. But I looked at it closely again, and the radius of my bit of paper is a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit short. So I've measured it another 3 times, and I'm consistently getting like 5 1/4, 5 1/4 and a bit. For, you know, so I scribed out one that was 5 1/2, held that up, and that's fine. So I'm going for 5 1/2 and calling it that. In the meanwhile, this is doing my head in, so it's going. I'll be itching to cut this up. Right. Right then, so if you have a look at this, 2 different sizes of tube. This is 30mm, that's 25mm. Both are 2mm wall thickness. And if you look down here, where are you? Alright, can you see? It's like sleeved on the inside. So where this has been joined onto the main frame, essentially all they've done is done a plug on it. The inside sleeve is split, so it's almost like they took a section of this, slit it, jammed it in there so it would fit nice, which, well, it does in a couple of places, that side and that side, but there's gaps either side here. And that's all gone through. If I look down this one, there's a seam to it. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see in there. There's a seam to it, so this isn't seamless tube, it's not DOM or anything else like that. It looks like this is just ERW. I will get a picture of that and shove it up actually. Come on, stay still. Where's my camera? So we're starting to find out what everything's made out of, which is good. Come on, focus. Right, so that's that. So I've written him down on my list as far as to what I'm making the seat frame out of. So that's all cool. I will stick him to one side though, just for now. And I'm interested to see if this is the RW as well. There's no holes that I can be peeking in, so I've got to chomp it up. There's something in there, isn't there? Right, let's get the band tool going. Amount of rubbish in there, it has to be said. Right, this is ERW as well. How thick are we? Zeroed. That's 2mm. Really? 2mm? See, I thought it would have been thicker than that. Right then, I've spent ages on the bloody phone. Couple of problems, but I think we've got a solution. So I've phoned up all my normal metal supplies that I use for, you know, doing the business and everything else. I cannot get 1 3/8 or 35mm in a 2mm wall thickness. And do it. Which is a bit of a bugger really, because what I really wanted to do is to mimic exactly what is on the frame at the minute. That ain't going to be doable. However, potentially it solves a problem, because that top tube, you know, the two that come down the side by the bottom of the tank, they're 1.5 inches, and then it goes into the boxy bit, and then it comes out the bottom of the boxy bit a little bit smaller, which, you know, all right, it's a bit smaller, I don't really care. But if I went for 1.5 inches all over it, then all the frame would match, so there wouldn't be any steps in it where I'm going from one dimension to another dimension and all that sort of stuff. So potentially it could look an awful lot better as well. So they've got it in stock and I can get that sent down, but the other reason for wanting to go that route is because I've already got this die. This is a die I got for the headers when I was trying to bend the stainless tube and just failed miserably, because I was trying to get it to go around too tight a radius and all that sort of stuff without heating it and filling it full of sand and blah 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 blah. But I've got this die. So this is an 1.5 inch tube diameter by a 4.5 inch centerline radius, and I can do a 180 degree bend out of that if I wanted to. So if I went for 1.5 inches all over, I've got another tool I can use to make the frame as well. And I'm thinking about that bottom corner where it comes along the bottom side rails and then goes up to where the swing arm and the lower link mount and all that is. That needs to be a little bit tighter than 5.5. So that could do the do, I reckon. I've offered it up and just eyeballed it, and you know, I mean, it's pretty close. It is pretty close. So I reckon I'm going to go 1.5 inches all over on this one. I've cut the tube up. It is definitely 2mm. I must have measured it like, I thought it would have been like 3, something like that. But it's definitely 2mm. And if I'm going up slightly on the diameter, essentially there's more metal in there. It'll be stronger than a thinner diameter tube. So, you know, I'm quite happy to stick with the 2mm, that's fine. If Mr. Suzuki thought it was good enough, who am I to argue with him? It's just a shame he used 1 3/8 inches really, isn't it? So anyway, next problem I've got is bloody Christmas. Can you say bar humbug? Why is Christmas getting in the way again? Why? It did last year. Last year we couldn't do anything. We had to isolate because Jake, bless him, had COVID because he's a disease-ridden teenager. But anyway, all the plants and stuff, they're all shutting down for Christmas soon. Today's the 17th. I had a chat with the bird that was doing all the steel. If I ordered it today, she could get it here for Wednesday, if I'm lucky. So, you know, the die, on the other hand, there is a 5-day wait on that, I think. So I need to get home and get on the phone and get one ordered to stand any chance of getting it here in time. Because otherwise I'm going to have the Christmas break and I ain't going to be able to do much of anything on this apart from make up a couple of fixtures that I want to do. You'll see all that later on. But anyway, so that's where I'm going to leave it today, because I'm going to chip off and get on the phone. And hopefully we'll have something to play with over the Christmas break. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? But anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Do hope you're well and staying safe. We will see you on the next one. Adios.